Does anyone know the story of Snow White? Does anyone actually know the story? Okay, I'll tell you the story. All right? She is the queen, and she thinks she's so full of herself. Everything about her is vanity. Everything about her is about looks, okay? So she's doing everything she can to keep her youth, to keep her age, and everyone says she's the fairest in the land, okay? Then one day she asks her magic mirror, am I still the fairest in the land? And he says, no, she is, okay? Now, her name in the story is Snow White. Do you know why her name is Snow White? Because the actual line from the story is because her skin was as white as snow. That's literally the line. Does her skin look as white as snow? The skin of Gal Gadot in juxtaposition to her face is lighter. So just in line with the fucking name of the story in the movie, this is awful casting. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. It doesn't even follow the plot of the story at all. All right? Now, you might argue, well, I don't think that people of fairest white skin are most attractive. That's fine. You can argue that. But that's the story. That's why it's fucking called Snow White. So if you don't like the story, don't make the movie. Don't change the story for the movie. Just don't make the movie. If you don't believe that people of fair white complexion are the most attractive, then don't make the movie. That's the story of the fucking movie. Like, wow, amazing, great, mind-blowing stuff here. If you don't like the message, don't relay the message. Instead, they're changing the story of the movie to fit their own purposes. So now, the queen is Gal Gadot, who's Jewish, I believe, correct? And now is it supposed to be she's her stepdaughter or half-daughter? I forget exactly. No, I can't exactly remember. But I think they're supposed to be related. No. And look at her. I'm sorry. No, she doesn't fit the complexion. She's not anywhere near as attractive as a queen, but we're supposed to believe this is the plot. Right? Like, what are you talking about? Are we supposed to be stupid? I understand that it's fantasy. You're supposed to suspend your disbelief to some extent. But at what point do we look at this and we're like, okay, this is awful. Like, this, you've ruined the entire thing already. And we've only saw 40 seconds of the trailer. Right? So, and yeah, someone made the point, well, Gal Gadot's Jewish, so she's not white. You're right. So none of it makes sense. They should have just renamed the whole movie. Well, they did. The actual story is Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. And instead, they couldn't have the word dwarf either. Because apparently now, somehow, that's also culturally insulting to say the word dwarf. So it can't be Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. It's got to be something else. Just Snow White. Okay? Well, actually, I'm actually glad they didn't call it Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. And you're going to see in just a couple moments here. Let's continue.
The fairest of them all.
The queen is evil. You must flee into the woods.
Every shot is worse. Every shot of Snow White is actually worse. Like, she looks worse in every shot. Did you notice? It just keeps continuing and getting worse.
My parents always said this forest was...
Wait a minute. I thought this was live action. What are we looking at? These creatures don't look real. Are you telling me that's supposed to be realistic CGI? That looks like... Those aren't real creatures. You could tell it's like a cartoon. I feel like I'm watching the Disney afternoon right now. It's fucking Chippendale's Rescue Rangers or Tailspin. Look how bad that looks. That CGI.
It's a magical place.
Oh, no.
Hello? Is there anybody here?
They auto-tuned the dwarves. Did you hear that? They auto-tuned the dwarves hi-ho. Yo! Oh! 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 Oh, I looked at the wrong time. What is that? What in God's green earth is that? What the shit? Wow.
I frighten you.
And what's funny is that's where it ends. And appropriate, that's where it ends. Because if you know the story of Snow White, here's how it goes. Snow White fell in love with a prince. Okay? So, at the beginning of the story, she's already in love with some guy. Now, is she in a relationship with him? Has she gone out with him? No. She just kind of, just like all these princesses and all these Disney movies, love at first sight. Somehow she falls in love with this prince. Okay. What happens is she gets poisoned with that apple. All right. And put into an eternal sleep. Now, what the queen is hoping will happen is that people will think she's dead and just bury her. And then she's gone forever. But the apple just puts her to sleep. And so what they end up doing is they put her in this glass casket, which is really bizarre. And they put her like in the woods in a glass casket. Well, the prince gets wind of this and he goes to rescue her. And what does he do? He kisses her. Okay. So it's supposed to be the kiss of true love breaks the curse and wakes her up. And then together, I guess the queen dies. I think she falls off a cliff or something. It's some dumb thing how the queen dies. Really dumb. And then that's the end. So then basically Snow White and the prince become the new rulers of the kingdom happily ever after. But how are they going to put that into this new version of the movie where basically if he kisses her without her there consenting, it would be considered, oh, you did it without my permission, right? Watch them put in like a scene. How much they're going to put in a scene earlier that's not in the base story where it'll be like, oh, I agree that the next time that I see you, we will kiss. And she's like, oh, I agree. And I cannot wait for the kiss. The scene will be put in there so that way, when they have the kiss, so he wakes her up, they've already consensually agreed. Maybe there'll be like a parchment. There'll be a big scroll where they sign permissions ahead of time that the next time that they meet, they must kiss.